The icy steel handcuffs bit into Sophia Bennett's wrists, a sharp sting of pain and shame. The 42-year-old stood tall, her back to the vast glass wall of Terminal 4 at JFK International Airport, New York. Harsh, fluorescent lights glared off the glass, yet they couldn't pierce the heavy dread surrounding her. Her sleek, custom-fitted blazer and understated designer tote bag lay discarded at her feet. All her poise and quiet strength felt hollow under the rough grip of two young officers. Officer Lucas Reed, 29, the evident leader, stood with arms folded, his smirk dripping with disdain. His dark hair was buzzed, and his gray eyes raked over Sophia, lingering on her costly attire. Beside him, Officer Caleb Morse, 24, less seasoned, tried to mimic Reed's toughness, but his nervous glances betrayed his unease. "Well, well," Reed drawled, his voice thick with mockery. "Fancy clothes, that leather tote? Bet you're rolling in cash, lady." His tone turned lady into a slur, oozing prejudice. Reed's words carried, drawing curious glances from passers-by who quickly scurried off. "That pricey outfit, that snakeskin bag, you must be up to something," he sneered, eyeing Sophia's tote as if it hid secrets. Morse, eager to back him up, stammered, "Yeah, Lucas, it's weird. Why she got all this fancy stuff?" Sophia stayed silent, her sharp hazel eyes scanning the scene with the precision of a veteran operative, taking in Reed's smug face, badge number 2147, and Morse's fidgeting, number 2039. Sophia's gaze catalogued everything. Reed's flushed cheeks, Morse's restless hands, their positions in the sprawling terminal, the angles of overhead cameras, and the fleeting reactions of travelers, some curious, others indifferent, before they hurried away. The terminal buzzed with loudspeaker calls for flights, the rumble of suitcase wheels and the faint tang of jet fuel. Against this chaotic backdrop, Sophia's calm elegance clashed starkly with the officer's crude, biased aggression, a painful contrast that underscored the injustice unfolding in the heart of the bustling airport. Reed, unsettled by Sophia's silence, stepped closer, his tone mock-friendly but laced with menace. "Look, lady," he hissed, his coffee-stained breath hitting her face. "We can drag you to the precinct, search your stuff, run your name. Paperwork's a nightmare. You might be stuck here days missing your big plans." He paused, eyeing her unflinching stare. "Or," he added, his voice oily, "you could make this quick. A little cooperation could make things pleasant for everyone." His intent was clear, predatory. Sophia's expression didn't waver, but her eyes turned icy. She knew where this was headed. "Just a small gesture," Reed pressed, his lips curling greedily. "Say, $1,500 cash. Pocket change for someone like you, right?" He nodded at her wallet, peeking from her tote. "Pay up, and we forget this. Handcuffs off, you walk free. No one's the wiser. Easy, yeah?" Reed's smugness oozed confidence, certain he held the upper hand over this poised, solitary woman of color. Morse stood by, tense but expectant, his eyes darting between Reed and Sophia. $1,500 split two ways was a tidy sum for low-ranking cops. Their actions, racial profiling, power abuse, illegal restraint, had now escalated to outright extortion, a brazen crime in the heart of an international airport. Blinded by greed and bias, Reed and Morse had no inkling of the trap they'd sprung. Sophia, silent, let them dig deeper, her mind already cataloging their every word as evidence of their downfall. Moments earlier, Sophia Bennett had cleared customs, collecting her compact suitcase from the baggage claim. She'd flown in from Brussels, Belgium, for a high-stakes global summit on cybersecurity and international crime. As the 42-year-old director of a top-tier intelligence agency, her attendance was strictly confidential. Opting for a commercial flight to blend in, she traveled with minimal security, her aides keeping a discreet distance as per her orders. She wanted to assess JFK's security protocols firsthand, unnoticed as a regular passenger. Dressed in a tailored navy suit, understated yet high-end, with a subtle leather tote and suitcase, Sophia aimed to avoid attention. But her polished appearance, a confident black woman traveling solo, caught Officer Reed's eye. As she headed toward the taxi stand, Reed and Morse blocked her path. "Ma'am, we need to see your ID," Reed said, his tone clipped but professional at first. Sophia paused, calm. "Is there an issue, officer?" "Routine check," Reed snapped, his eyes lingering on her attire with suspicion. Sophia handed over her driver's license, a valid ID that concealed her true role. Reed scrutinized it longer than necessary, then launched into invasive questions. "Where you from? Why are you alone? What's in that bag? How'd you afford this getup?" His tone grew hostile, laced with bias. Sophia answered briefly, her patience thinning. The questions veered far beyond routine, dripping with prejudice. Morse echoed Reed's suspicions, his voice shaky but compliant, following his senior officer's lead without question, amplifying the escalating harassment. "Officer," Sophia said, her voice steady but firm, "I've shown my ID. Why these questions? If there's no valid reason, let me pass." Reed's face twisted into a sneer. "Valid reason? You look suspicious, lady. We think you're carrying something illegal." "On what grounds?" Sophia pressed, meeting his gaze. "Do you have a warrant or probable cause?" Her sharp, legal challenge infuriated Reed, who took it as defiance. "That's it," he barked. "Morse, cuff her. We're taking her in for questioning." Morse hesitated, glancing at Reed, but under pressure he pulled out the handcuffs. "You can't do this," Sophia said, her tone cutting. "This is abuse of power and unlawful detention." "Quiet!" Reed shouted. "Think you're above the law? Where'd you get the cash for that fancy suit? Bet it's dirty money." He nodded at Morse, who reluctantly snapped the cuffs on Sophia's wrists. The cold metal tightened, but Sophia's resolve didn't falter, her mind already strategizing, observing, and collecting evidence. Throughout the ordeal, stopped, interrogated, searched without cause, and wrongfully cuffed, Sophia showed no fear. Her decades of navigating high-stakes crises had honed her instincts. She wasn't just a victim, she was a seasoned investigator, silently building a case. Reed's badge number, 2147, Morse's 2039, their exact positions, the camera angles. She memorized it all. When Reed dangled his $1,500 bribe, she wasn't shocked. She'd anticipated it from his earlier hints. Her silence wasn't defiance. It was a calculated move to let him incriminate himself further. Reed grew impatient with Sophia's calm silence. "What, no cash? Or you just want to play tough?" he snapped, his voice rising. "Fine, we'll haul you to the station. You'll spill everything there." He turned to Morse, signaling him to prepare to move her, likely to the precinct or somewhere quieter to keep up the pressure. Sophia's piercing eyes stayed locked on Reed, giving him rope to hang himself with. Every word he spoke was another nail in his coffin, and she knew it. That was enough. Sophia decided it was time to act. She had airtight evidence: racial profiling, abuse of authority, illegal cuffing, and now a blatant extortion attempt. The officers had crossed a line, and their reckoning was due. As Morse reached to guide her forward, Sophia spoke, her voice steady but laced with command. "I need to make a call," she said clearly, each word deliberate. Reed smirked, still cocky. "Who are you calling? Your lawyer? Someone to pay your way out?" Sophia ignored his taunts, repeating firmly, "I need to call my deputy director." Reed's smirk faltered. "Deputy director of what?" He scoffed, still assuming she was some shady businesswoman. "What company's got a deputy director?" Morse looked puzzled, shifting uneasily. "Give me my phone," Sophia ordered, her tone unyielding. "It's in my bag's side pocket." Morse glanced at Reed, who shrugged, thinking a call might bring cash. Morse retrieved a sleek black smartphone from her tote and handed it to her. Despite the cuffs, Sophia deftly activated the phone, likely with a voice command or preset gesture. The screen flared to life, and a call connected instantly to a high-priority line. Morse, following her nod, held the phone to her ear. The line picked up immediately, a crisp male voice answering. "Ethan, it's Sophia," she said, her voice shifting to one of absolute authority. "I'm at JFK Terminal 4, near Exit 9. We've got a serious issue with 2 local cops." Sophia's tone hardened as she continued, glancing at the stunned officers. Officers Lucas Reed, badge 2147, and Caleb Morse, badge 2039, have cuffed me without cause and just attempted extortion. Her voice was steel. "I need the FBI's New York field. Office Rapid Response Team here now. Alert Special Agent in Charge Michael Torres. Priority 1. Repeat Priority 1. Reed and Morse froze, their faces draining of color as the weight of her words, FBI, Priority 1, sank in, signaling their colossal mistake. The officers stood paralyzed, processing names and terms. Ethan, FBI, Michael Torres, Priority 1. Who was this woman? Why the FBI? How did she know Torres? Dread crept into their minds. Sophia ended the call with a curt, "Understood, Ethan. Stand by for updates." She nodded for Morse to lower the phone, then fixed Reed with a chilling stare. His smugness was gone, replaced by panic. "You," she said, her voice like a blade, "have just made a catastrophic error." Sophia let the warning hang, her gaze unrelenting. "You've illegally cuffed, insulted, and tried to extort the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation." The words FBI director hit like a shockwave. Reed's jaw dropped, his body trembling. Morse stood rigid, eyes wide with horror. The woman before them, polished, unshakably calm, was Sophia Bennett, head of the FBI. The realization crushed them. Their careers, their futures, were unraveling. The airport's hum faded as the gravity of their actions consumed them. Reed stammered, his voice cracking. No, you're bluffing, right? Ma'am, please say it's a joke." He wanted to uncuff her but couldn't move, rooted by fear. Morse, pale and shaking, stared at Sophia, then Reed, his mind blank with terror. The suit, the composure, the names she dropped, it all clicked. This was no businesswoman. She was the FBI's top official. Their racist, greedy scheme had targeted the wrong person, and the consequences were about to crash down hard. Sophia's calm authority radiated as she stood, still cuffed, awaiting her team. Reed and Morse were statues, their bravado shattered. The terminal's bustle continued, announcements blaring, travelers rushing. But for the officers, time stopped. They'd profiled and targeted a black woman, assuming she was an easy mark. Instead, they'd crossed the FBI director. Within minutes, federal agents would arrive, and the full weight of justice would descend. Their badges, their freedom, hung by a thread, and they knew it. The trap was sprung. Less than 8 minutes after Sophia's call, a stir rippled through Terminal 4's corridor. 6 men and women in plainclothes, radiating professionalism, moved swiftly toward Sophia and the stunned officers. Their sharp eyes scanned the crowd, which parted instinctively. Leading them was Special Agent in Charge Michael Torres, 47, gray streaks in his hair, his tailored suit exuding authority. His presence confirmed Reed and Morse's worst fears. The FBI's New York field office head was here, and their reckless actions were about to unravel spectacularly. Torres strode directly to Sophia, his face a mix of concern and fury as he saw her cuffed. "Director Bennett," he said, voice thick with respect, "are you all right?" "What happened?" His agents fanned out, forming a subtle but firm perimeter, their gazes locking onto Reed and Morse. The officers stood frozen, faces pale, as the reality sank in. Sophia, still cuffed, exuded command. "I'm fine, Michael," she replied calmly. "But these officers have committed serious offenses. They're in deep trouble." Torres's eyes blazed as he turned to Reed and Morse, who shrank under his scrutiny. "Disarm them," he ordered sharply. "Secure their badges and radios." Two burly agents stepped forward, swiftly removing the officers' sidearms, cuffs, radios, and badges with practiced precision. Reed and Morse offered no resistance, too paralyzed by shock. Another agent approached Sophia. "Director, my apologies," he said softly, unlocking her cuffs with a key. The faint click marked the end of the officer's brief power and the start of their downfall. Freed, Sophia massaged her reddened wrists, then turned to Torres with crisp instructions. "Michael, cordon off this area. Only our team and authorized personnel allowed. Pull all security footage from the moment I was stopped to now. Have techs analyze it immediately. Seize the officers' radios and any recording devices, especially body cams. Check for witnesses, passengers, staff, and take statements later. Contact the U.S. Attorney's Office, Eastern District. Request a prosecutor on site." Her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Torres nodded, his agents springing into action. Sergeant Greg Harper, 38, Reed and Morse's airport police supervisor, arrived, face ashen at the chaos. Seeing the FBI director commanding federal agents while his officers stood disarmed, he stammered apologies to Sophia and Torres but was clearly overwhelmed. Reed and Morse, now fully aware of their dire situation, job loss, criminal charges, prison, began pleading. "Director Bennett, please," Reed sobbed, his tough facade gone. "We didn't know it was you. We're sorry. Please don't ruin us." Morse, tears streaming, echoed, "Please, ma'am, we're young. We messed up. Give us a chance." Sophia's hazel eyes were cold, unyielding. "Your mistake wasn't failing to recognize me," she said, her voice cutting through their pleas. "It was abusing your power, acting on bias, illegally cuffing a citizen, and trying to extort money from someone you swore to protect." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Stay quiet, cooperate with my agents, and face the legal consequences." Her tone was final, unsparing. With the scene under FBI control, the case shifted to federal jurisdiction. The crimes, civil rights violations under color of law and extortion conspiracy, were federal offenses, amplified by the victim's identity. Assistant U.S. Attorney Lisa Nguyen, 35, sharp and relentless, took charge. Known for tackling corruption cases, she saw the case's weight. Justice for Sophia and a signal to law enforcement. Working with Torres's FBI team, Nguyen began building an airtight case, determined to hold Reed and Morse accountable for their brazen misconduct. The Port Authority police launched an internal probe, but the FBI's overwhelming evidence, Sophia's testimony, camera footage, forced swift action. Reed and Morse were suspended immediately, their terminations finalized days later. Their badges, once symbols of pride, were revoked permanently. Beyond job loss, they faced federal prosecution. Based on Sophia's account and initial evidence, a federal judge issued arrest warrants. FBI agents arrested the former officers, cuffing them and hauling them to federal custody to await their court date, their futures crumbling. The FBI's investigation was meticulous. Terminal 4's security footage captured every moment. Reed and Morse stopping Sophia, the tense exchange, the illegal cuffing, and the extortion attempt. Though audio was absent, their actions were clear. Morse's body cam, left on by oversight, proved damning. It recorded Reed's biased remarks and his $1,500 demand, a clear extortion offer. This footage became the case's cornerstone. Witness statements from passengers and staff corroborated Sophia's account, while the officers' radios and personal devices were seized for analysis. Sophia provided a formal statement, recounting the incident with precision and objectivity. Her calm, factual delivery carried immense weight, untainted by emotion. Torres and his agents testified about Sophia's condition upon their arrival and the officers' panic. Sergeant Harper detailed Reed's prior minor complaints for aggressive behavior and Morse's tendency to follow stronger personalities. Passenger and employee accounts aligned with Sophia's, painting a clear picture of abuse. The FBI's evidence, video, audio, and testimony formed an unassailable case against the disgraced officers. The FBI dug into Reed and Morse's records. Reed had a history of informal complaints, bullying, subtle bias, but nothing severe enough for discipline. Morse's record was cleaner, though supervisors noted his susceptibility to peer influence. Faced with damning evidence, Morse, on his lawyer's advice, chose to cooperate. He pleaded guilty to lesser charges, agreeing to testify against Reed, detailing their scheme and Reed's lead role. His cooperation strengthened the case, further isolating Reed, whose defiance began to crack under the mounting pressure. With evidence compiled, Nguyen presented the case to a federal grand jury. The jurors reviewed the footage, body cam audio, Sophia's testimony, and Morse's confession. They voted to indict Reed and Morse on 2 counts, violating civil rights under color of law for abusing their authority to deny Sophia's rights, and Hobbs Act extortion conspiracy for their $1,500 demand, which impacted interstate commerce at JFK. The charges were severe, reflecting the gravity of targeting the FBI director with racist, corrupt intent. Reed's attorney, facing a tough defense, tried to negotiate a plea deal, arguing Morse's testimony was self-serving. Nguyen, backed by the Justice Department, refused leniency, citing the case's public importance. She pushed for a trial to ensure transparency and deter the future misconduct. Morse's lawyer leaned on his client's youth and remorse, hoping for a lighter sentence. Both former officers now faced a federal trial, their fates hinging on a jury's verdict. The stage was set for a high-profile reckoning at the Brooklyn courthouse. The trial began months later in the U.S. District Court, Eastern District of New York, in Brooklyn. The case drew intense media scrutiny, spotlighting racism, corruption, and power abuse in law enforcement. The courtroom buzzed with reporters, activists, and onlookers. Nguyen led the prosecution, presenting a methodical case. Security footage showed Reed and Morse's actions clearly, but the body cam was the clincher. When played, Reed's slurs and extortion offer silenced the room, leaving the jury visibly stunned by the officer's audacity. Sophia took the stand, her tailored suit and composed demeanor commanding respect. She recounted the incident with clarity, detailing every step without embellishment. Her professionalism and authority captivated the jury, her testimony unshaken by defense cross-examination. Torres testified about the scene's chaos and the officer's fear. Morse, testifying per his plea, admitted his role and Reed's leadership, his regret palpable. Passenger and staff statements reinforced the narrative, painting Reed and Morse as predators abusing their badges to target a vulnerable traveler. Reed's defense struggled against the evidence. His attorney claimed Reed acted under stress, misjudging the situation, and called the $1,500 demand a joke gone wrong, not extortion. He questioned Morse's motives, suggesting he scapegoated Reed to save himself. On civil rights charges, the defense denied racial intent, claiming heated words weren't bias. The arguments faltered against the body cam's clarity. Morse's attorney emphasized his client's inexperience and cooperation, pleading for mercy. The prosecution's case, anchored by undeniable evidence, left little room for doubt. After closing arguments, the jury deliberated briefly, returning after 4 hours. The foreman stood, voice steady. "We find defendant Lucas Reed guilty of violating civil rights under color of law and guilty of Hobbs Act extortion conspiracy. We find defendant Caleb Morse guilty of violating civil rights under color of law and guilty of Hobbs Act extortion conspiracy." Reed slumped, face drained. Morse shut his eyes, accepting the verdict. The courtroom held its breath as justice landed, the officers' fates sealed. The sentencing hearing followed weeks later. Guyon stressed the case's severity: betrayal of public trust, racial bias, and corrupt extortion. She urged stiff penalties to deter others. Reed's attorney cited his remorse and family burdens, begging leniency. Morse's lawyer highlighted his cooperation and youth, requesting a reduced sentence. Sophia attended, delivering a victim statement. She focused on the broader harm, erosion of trust in law enforcement. Her words measured but powerful. Her presence underscored the case's weight, amplifying the call for accountability in the face of such betrayal. The federal judge, a stern woman, addressed the defendants. "Lucas Reed, Caleb Morse, you were entrusted to serve and protect. Instead, you abused your authority, acted on prejudice, and sought to profit through extortion. Your actions disgrace the badge and harm the public's trust." She emphasized the racial motivations and the attack on justice itself. "Society demands severe consequences," she declared, her voice unwavering. The courtroom tensed, awaiting the sentences that would define the officers' futures and send a message to law enforcement nationwide. The judge delivered her ruling. "Lucas Reed, this court sentences you to 11 years in federal prison. Caleb Morse, considering your cooperation, but not excusing your role, this court sentences you to 7 years in federal prison." The sentences reflected the crime's gravity. Reed stood motionless, eyes hollow. Morse nodded faintly, resigned. Federal marshals cuffed them, leading them from the courtroom to begin their terms. Their brief, tainted careers ended in disgrace, a stark warning to others wielding power with prejudice or greed. The sentencing reverberated beyond the courtroom. Media outlets dissected the case, highlighting its lessons on accountability. The Port Authority police faced scrutiny, implementing reforms, stricter oversight, ethics training, and mandatory body cams. The case spurred other departments to adopt similar measures, reinforcing the need for transparency. Sophia's handling of the ordeal, calm, resolute, earned her widespread respect, solidifying her reputation as a leader of integrity. The FBI's swift response showcased its power to confront misconduct, even within law enforcement, restoring faith in federal justice. Back at FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., Sophia sat in her office, the Capitol's skyline visible through her window. She'd just finished a grueling briefing on cyber threats. No satisfaction came from Reed and Morse's downfall, only relief that justice prevailed. The JFK incident was a stark reminder of persistent challenges: bias, corruption, abuse. It fueled her resolve to lead the FBI with fairness, ensuring those in power honored their duty. She returned to her desk, ready to tackle the next crisis, unwavering in her mission. Sophia Bennett's testimony was pivotal. She recounted the incident with surgical precision, her voice steady, devoid of emotion, presenting facts as a citizen wronged by those sworn to protect. Her tailored suit and calm authority commanded the courtroom, leaving the jury in awe. Her words carried weight, unshaken by defense attempts to rattle her. Michael Torres and his agents corroborated her account, detailing the officer's panic and the scene's tension. Their testimonies painted a vivid picture of Reed and Morse's abuse, solidifying the prosecution's case. Passenger and airport staff statements further tightened the noose. Several travelers recalled Reed's aggressive demeanor and Morse's nervous compliance, their accounts aligning with Sophia's. Sergeant Greg Harper, Reed and Morse's supervisor, testified about Reed's prior complaints for overstepping and Morse's tendency to follow bad leads. Caleb Morse's plea deal testimony was damning. Admitting his role and Reed's orchestration of the extortion, the body cam footage, played repeatedly, left no doubt. Reed's slurs and $1,500 demand were deliberate, not impulsive. The evidence was overwhelming, the officer's guilt undeniable. Lucas Reed's defense floundered. His attorney argued Reed acted under airport stress, misreading Sophia's demeanor, and claimed the $1,500 demand was a misspoken jest, not extortion. He suggested Morse exaggerated Reed's role to save himself. On civil rights charges, the defense insisted no racial bias existed, just heated words. The arguments crumbled against the body cam's clarity and Morse's testimony. Morse's attorney leaned on his client's youth, inexperience, and remorse, emphasizing his cooperation to beg for leniency. The jury, unmoved, saw through the weak defenses. After closing arguments, the jury deliberated for just 3 hours, a testament to the case's clarity. The foreman rose, voice firm. "We, the jury, find Lucas Reed guilty of violating civil rights under color of law and guilty of Hobbs Act extortion conspiracy. We find Caleb Morse guilty of violating civil rights under color of law and guilty of Hobbs Act extortion conspiracy." Reed collapsed into his chair, face ashen. Morse bowed his head, accepting the inevitable. The courtroom exhaled, justice delivered with resounding finality. Weeks later, the sentencing hearing unfolded. Lisa Nguyen, the prosecutor, underscored the betrayal. 2 officers, entrusted with public safety, succumbed to prejudice and greed. She demanded harsh penalties to deter future misconduct. Reed's attorney pleaded for mercy, citing his client's family and alleged remorse. Morse's lawyer highlighted his cooperation and clean prior record, requesting a lighter sentence. Sophia, present, delivered a victim statement, her words piercing. She spoke not of personal pain but of the broader damage to trust in law enforcement, her authority undeniable. Sophia's statement resonated. "When officers abuse their power," she said, her voice calm but forceful, "they don't just harm one person. They fracture the trust community's place in those who serve. Your actions, driven by bias and corruption, demand accountability. Justice must show that integrity is non-negotiable." Her words hung heavy, a call for systemic change. The jury nodded, visibly moved. Nguyen reinforced Sophia's message, urging the judge to send a clear signal. No one, badge or not, is above the law. The judge, a seasoned woman with a steely gaze, addressed the defendants. "Lucas Reed, Caleb Morse, you were given a sacred duty to uphold justice. Instead, you chose prejudice, abuse, and extortion. Your actions disgrace the badge and erode public faith. She condemned their racial bias and blatant corruption, emphasizing the harm to society's trust. These crimes strike at justice itself, she declared. Severe punishment is warranted. The courtroom tensed, awaiting sentences that would define the case's legacy and the officers' futures. The judge's verdict was unflinching. Lucas Reed, this court sentences you to 11 years in federal prison. Caleb Morse, factoring in your cooperation but not excusing your guilt, this court sentences you to 7 years. Reed stood frozen, eyes hollow with defeat. Morse nodded faintly, resigned to his fate. Federal marshals stepped forward, cuffing them with a cold clink, leading them from the courtroom. Their brief, shameful careers ended, a stark lesson in the cost of betraying the public's trust with greed and bias. The verdict sent ripples nationwide. Media outlets dissected the case, calling it a wake-up call for law enforcement. Activists hailed it as a step toward accountability, while police unions grappled with the fallout. The Port Authority Police, under intense scrutiny, rolled out reforms, mandatory ethics training, bias awareness programs, and stricter body cam policies. Other departments followed, adopting similar measures to prevent such scandals. The case became a touchstone, proving that even the powerful could face justice when they crossed the line. Sophia Bennett's reputation soared. Her poised, principled response to the ordeal, never wavering, always strategic, earned her admiration across the country. The FBI's swift, decisive action under her leadership showcased its ability to tackle misconduct, even within law enforcement ranks. Public trust in the agency grew, as did respect for Sophia's commitment to fairness. The case highlighted the need for federal oversight to check local abuses, reinforcing the FBI's role as a guardian of justice when those in power falter. At FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., Sophia sat in her expansive office, the Washington Monument framed by her window. She'd just wrapped a high-stakes meeting on national security threats. The JFK incident lingered, not as a personal wound, but as a reminder of systemic flaws. Racial bias, power abuse, corruption's lure. She felt no glee at Reed and Morse's ruin, only resolve to strengthen the system. Justice had prevailed, but the fight for a fair, accountable law enforcement was far from over. Sophia reflected on the incident's lessons. The officers' actions exposed gaps in training and oversight, issues she'd long championed addressing. Their downfall wasn't victory, it was a call to action. She envisioned a law enforcement culture rooted in integrity, where badges symbolized service, not dominance. The case had galvanized her mission to lead the FBI with unwavering fairness, ensuring those entrusted with power understood its weight. Every file on her desk, every call, was a step toward that vision, a fight she'd never abandon. The Port Authority's reforms were a start, but Sophia knew change was slow. New policies, stricter hiring, bias training, body cam enforcement, aimed to curb misconduct, but culture shifted only with persistent effort. The case's publicity drove other agencies to act, adopting similar measures to avoid their own scandals. Sophia's role in exposing Reed and Morse's crimes sparked broader conversations about accountability, pushing law enforcement to confront uncomfortable truths. Her leadership, calm under fire, became a model for navigating crises with principle and purpose. Back in her office, Sophia reviewed a report on emerging cyber threats. The JFK ordeal had sharpened her focus, reminding her of the stakes. She wasn't just fighting external enemies but internal rot, prejudice, corruption that undermined justice. Her resolve hardened. The FBI under her watch would be a beacon of integrity, holding all accountable, from street cops to top officials. She picked up her phone, dialed a secure line, and dove back into her mission, driven by duty to protect and serve. The case's impact lingered in public discourse. Editorials praised Sophia's restraint and the FBI's efficiency, while activists used the trial to demand systemic reform. Law enforcement leaders faced pressure to root out bias and ensure accountability. The sentences, 11 years for Reed, 7 for Morse, were seen as just, a signal that abuse of power carried heavy consequences. The body cam footage, now a case study in training programs, underscored transparency's role in justice. The incident reshaped policies, perceptions, and expectations nationwide. Sophia's personal sacrifice wasn't lost on her. Enduring humiliation at JFK, she turned a personal affront into a public reckoning. Her silence during Reed's taunts wasn't weakness but strategy, gathering evidence to dismantle their scheme. Her actions reflected decades of navigating high-stakes roles, where composure under pressure was key. She'd exposed not just 2 rogue cops, but a flaw in the system, sparking change. Her legacy grew, not from vengeance, but from proving justice could correct itself when guided by principle. The trial's aftermath saw Reed and Morse fade into obscurity, their names synonymous with disgrace. Their sentences, served in federal facilities, marked the end of their ambitions. The case, however, lived on, cited in legal journals, police training, and reform debates. Sophia's testimony, replayed in documentaries, inspired young officers to uphold integrity. Her leadership showed that power, wielded justly, could heal as much as it could punish. The incident, though painful, became a catalyst for progress, a testament to her enduring impact. Sophia's office buzzed with activity, briefings, calls, reports, but her focus never wavered. The JFK incident had clarified her purpose, to build a law enforcement system that served all, free of bias or corruption. She knew the road was long, fraught with resistance, but her resolve was ironclad. Every decision, every policy she pushed, aimed to prevent another Terminal 4. Her leadership wasn't about personal glory, but about safeguarding trust, ensuring the badge stood for justice, not oppression, for every citizen. Public reaction to the case varied. Some saw Reed and Morse as outliers, not reflective of most officers. Others argued it exposed deeper systemic issues, demanding broader reform. Sophia leaned toward the latter, advocating for training that confronted bias head-on. She met with police chiefs, sharing the case's lessons, urging them to embrace accountability. Her influence extended beyond the FBI, shaping national conversations about power and responsibility. The incident, though a dark moment, became a rallying cry for a more equitable justice system. Sophia's calm under pressure became legendary. Colleagues marveled at her ability to turn a personal ordeal into a systemic victory. She didn't dwell on the insult of Reed's slurs or the sting of cuffs, but on the opportunity to drive change. Her office, lined with commendations, reflected her career's impact, yet she remained humble. The case had tested her, but it also affirmed her belief in the system's capacity to self-correct, provided leaders like her stayed vigilant and true to their oath. The FBI's reputation grew stronger post-trial. Its rapid response, led by Sophia and Torres, showcased its authority to tackle local misconduct. The agency became a model for federal intervention when state or local systems failed. Sophia's insistence on transparency, releasing footage, cooperating with media, earned public trust. She knew trust was fragile, easily broken by a single bad actor. Her mission was to ensure the FBI remained a bulwark against such failures, protecting citizens and upholding the law with unwavering commitment. Sophia took a moment, gazing at the Capitol's glow. The fight wasn't over. Bias, greed, and power abuse persisted, but she was undeterred. The JFK case had strengthened her, not as a victim, but as a leader forging a better path. She returned to her desk, files stacked high, each a challenge to her vision of justice. A call came through. She answered, voice steady, ready to protect the nation. Her satisfaction lay in knowing the system, flawed but resilient, could uphold dignity and truth. The JFK incident was a triumph of justice over corruption. Sophia's strategic calm, the FBI's swift action, and the court's firm verdict proved no one was above accountability. Reed and Morse's downfall wasn't the end, but a beginning. A push for reform, transparency, and trust. Sophia's legacy was etched in every policy change. Every officer trained to serve with integrity. Human dignity and lawful authority had prevailed. A quiet victory that echoed beyond Terminal 4, shaping a fairer future for all. In the heart of JFK's Terminal 4, Sophia Bennett, a 42-year-old black woman and FBI director, stood handcuffed, her wrists aching under the bite of steel cuffs. Officers Lucas Reed and Caleb Morse, driven by prejudice and greed, targeted her, demanding $1,500 to forget their baseless suspicions. Yet Sophia's calm, piercing gaze and strategic silence turned their arrogance into panic when she revealed her identity, summoning federal agents in a mere 8 minutes. The officers' smugness crumbled as Michael Torres' team disarmed them, their badges stripped, their futures buried under 11- and 7-year federal sentences. This electrifying clash of power and justice yields 2 profound lessons. First, abuse of authority, especially when fueled by racial bias, invites catastrophic consequences. Reed and Morse's racist profiling and extortion scheme not only cost them their careers but exposed them to the full might of federal justice, proving no badge shields the corrupt. Their downfall, cemented by damning body cam footage and Sophia's unshakable testimony, underscores that integrity is non-negotiable in law enforcement. Second, resilience and strategic composure can transform victimhood into victory. Sophia's silence wasn't weakness, but a masterstroke, gathering evidence while Reed dug his own grave. Her call to Ethan, triggering a Priority 1 FBI response, flipped the script, showcasing how calculated restraint can dismantle injustice. The case sparked nationwide reforms, stricter oversight, mandatory body cams, bias training, reinforcing public trust. Back in her D.C. office, overlooking the Washington Monument, Sophia's resolve to lead with fairness burns brighter, a beacon against corruption. These lessons echo beyond the terminal's glass walls. Power demands accountability, and courage reshapes destiny, ensuring justice prevails in America's heart. What lessons from Sophia Bennett's gripping stand against corruption at JFK inspire you to demand justice in your community? Share your thoughts below, like this video, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more powerful stories that spark change. Join our growing community to uncover values of integrity and accountability. Hit that bell icon to never miss an update. Let's make a difference together.